Here.
Andrea,
Here.
Shelley,
Here.
Bill,
Here.
Ward,
Here.
George,
Yes.
Katie,
Here.
and Nancy are all present. Thank you. Okay. I just wanted to introduce this meeting a little bit, but primarily it's going to be a working session to review the 2021-2022 draft of the community engagement plan and to discuss proposed edits and additions. As I mentioned in my email, which attached the summary of your comments and your edits, it seems we have 3 projects: the short-term plan, the definitions, and the more comprehensive playbook. I wanted to check now, that came through email, so I wanted to just discuss for a moment, are we in agreement with this division, of this observation, and can we work with it? So I wanted to know if there was any comments or concerns about that. Anybody?
If I can make a couple comments just in terms of what's before you, and I'll be glad to do whatever edits you want. But I wanted to make a couple of things. The reason that we're here, from my understanding from back in December, is that we wanted to go to a short-term plan to outline real actions we would take in the short term. So to that end, I picked from that longer plan the specific objective about what this committee can do to support the projects that are now in the pipeline. And I think Orleans is extremely fortunate to have 3 projects in the pipeline. So you really could achieve your 10-year plan if all 3 are approved. So that's why it's that way. So for example, there's no verbiage about general education of the general public on the general need for affordable housing, because we were trying to focus in on short term and the issues of the projects now in the pipeline and what this committee can do to support it. I'm concerned that we're now into 2021. And if we then edit this plan, go back and forth, maybe approve it at the next meeting, maybe not, we'll be into March before you start implementing it. On the other hand, we have spring town meeting coming up very quickly, and you're going to have both, I think, money for Cape Cod 5 under discussion, as well as the Governor Prince acquisition. So if you guys want to affect that in any way, that is have public discussion or whatever, you really have to decide what you're going to do now in order to be able to be in a position to do that. So I'll be glad to edit and reorganize and add, but the whole point was to try to focus and prioritize and bring it down to what is essential to get going as quickly as possible. So I just sort of want to put it out there that, we can spend the whole meeting editing, but I think you guys want to know at the end of the meeting what has to be done starting tomorrow to prepare for that next milestone, which is Springtown meeting. So I just wanted to say that, because if we don't approve this, quote, draft short-term plan until next month or the month after, it's going to be too late, at least for that first milestone.
Yeah. Nancy?
Yes.
I just want to, just backing up everything Marcia just said, it's my experience that there is no housing project that can be proposed that does not have some people who don't understand it or are threatened by it. And so you might think that the Penrose Cape Cod 5 project is in the can and it's going to happen, but it hasn't gone through any permitting yet. It hasn't been funded yet. And I want to keep my eyes on that prize until it is done. And I would even prioritize that as the highest priority among the 3 projects, although they will all take some committee effort to if we're going to see them through. And I really think it will be a challenge at the town meeting to present two projects that include housing for substantial funding in the spring. That's it.
Anyone else? Cory?
I agree. I understand what Marcia is saying. If we just concentrate on going back and forth on this document, I think it should be and could be a guide for dealing with each of the specific projects. I wasn't sure what the comprehensive housing playbook part of our discussion was, where that was coming from.
Well, I think when I talked to George, I'm going to talk to Marcia, who had been talking to George before that. I think a lot of people wanted to add more and more detail to this particular plan. And they were good ideas. Perhaps we might want to do that. But the thought was, let's get going and not continue to write and add more things at this time. So I tried to put those, like, they used to use that term, the parking lot. It's a lot of these conferences we go to, try to put them in another place, the third area. And if we
Okay.
decide we want to, if we decide we need to, if we decide we have to, then we can go on and do a third piece. But at this point, along with what Marcia and George said, I think time is of the essence. We've been trying to do this for a while. And I'm excited that we're actually there at this point. But, you know, we've been sort of behind the 8 ball each time because projects keep coming along. So our need is to get something going and get it going quickly. And that's what we're trying to do. But I also value the fact that we asked your opinion. And I thought, if I ask your opinion about what you think, and then we just put it to the side and say, well, that was nice, thanks for sharing, then that's not exactly what a committee is in my mind. So that's why I spent the time taking all those comments and putting them into different categories. And we don't have to go line by line, but I think if we go topic by topic, and there's something that you really like to fight for to add in there, then it would be time. I don't want to read every single piece of that verbiage. It's a 4-page document that we, you know, came up with. And I think everything you said was important in some area that may not be important to this particular project. But I don't think I think we need to hold on to that in case we're going to look at something further. So my thought was to go by each topic. And if anyone felt that they would like to put forth what's there, it could be your idea, it could be somebody else's idea, and we could add it in or take it out if it was offensive to somebody in there. So I think I still want to do it. We've been talking the last few minutes. I think we could get to this point today. I don't think we have to, I think we could agree on a consensus that after we have this discussion, that we approve Marcia going and finalizing the document and getting started. I think that we don't have to wait till next month to do that. We don't have to vote on the final document because we have enough faith in her and the faith in the original document that it's not going to be changed all that much. And then
The other thing, could I clarify? My understanding is this is an internal working document for the committee. Not that it's private, it's publicly available, obviously,
Right.
but it's not meant to publish for public consumption. So you don't have to massage it and edit it and add and edit so that everybody out there understands it, as long as you understand it. So it's your work plan for the next year or so. And my intent was to take the direction from that, but then move to a real work plan, hire a consultant, produce a document that is used for the next spring meeting or whatever you guys want to do. So you don't have to make it a nice, pretty document for it to serve as a jumping off point for whatever you want to achieve. So I would just sort of de-emphasize the editing, but I think Nancy is right. There's still longer term civic engagement goals you have. And it would be great to have do more general education and have better understanding. And people are talking about, do we need to update the study? And what about this? That's all really valid stuff. So I think Nancy is saying, let's put it in this third document about the long-term civic engagement plan that you still want to work on and put out there for discussion.
Would you agree with that?
I
Yes.
think it makes a lot of sense. I thank you for the clarification. Yeah, I think it's great. Great idea.
I would agree also. I think that this is a really nice way to lay it out. And this is a good first working step for us, and we need to move to action. So I like what I'm hearing Marcia and all of you say.
Okay. All right.
Rich has his hand up.
Sorry, Rich. I'll just look down. Unmute. Rich? Unmute.
There we go. Sorry. No, I think this is a great beginning to this whole process. We're inventing the playbook as we go. So the bigger picture is going to be kind of defined by the shorter term goals that we're going to be trying to achieve. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yes. Okay, so can we go through this and make some comments on each section? Is that agreeable to all of you? Because I think that would be a waste of time if we hadn't even done that, you know. And we can say at that time, as part of this is supposed to be a discussion, and these are so hard to do this kind of work on Zoom, where we can't just pass papers around and have a real conversation, but we'll do our best. But I think we should go through that, and if we say that's for later, then we've got something to work with for another document for later. But I really feel like we need to go through each of the sections and have people, if they feel a need to make a point for each section, I think we should do it. I don't think it has to be tedious or take forever if we can stay focused on the goal. So I would like to do that. So the first topic is the objective, okay? And that's advocate for affordable housing efforts in process. All right. And the comment here was, should we have a broader objective to understand local housing needs and build support for affordable housing initiatives through community collaboration and engagement? So that was one of the questions. So actually there's two things on there that people thought would be added to this. How do you feel at this point? Do we want? I cannot see people's hands. They're in the, something's wrong. There I can see it's in the black. Ward, just yell out anybody. I don't care.
I
Ward?
would suggest that we have the title for this be Community Engagement Plan for Cape Cod 5, Governor Prince, and 107 Main Street. If it's going to be focused on those projects, let's title that. And then it seems to me the objective is something along the lines of build support for, support of these projects at the Springtown meeting. If we're drilling down to that, let's make that our goal.
Yeah, I would think that would be, I don't want to get tied down to each and every specific one, but I think our larger, when I looked at this document and the goal of this document, to me, it's the larger picture of where we want to do for community engagement. I agree that as we go forward, what we should be picking out is our specific goals and objectives for each of these projects. But I'm not sure that this document should be that specific. I think it is a wider document for community engagement of everything that we do and all of our objectives. I may be wrong, but I mean, I agree with what's been said about going forward. What we need to do is take elements of this and put them specifically toward, each project as we deal with that, each project. But I'm not sure that the the title should be or that our heading should be just those projects. That'd be just my opinion on that.
Well, I also think that's getting us too close to the Affordable Housing Trust Board if we start moving toward just the project, because it's their project which we're supporting as opposed to we're doing the project. So I think I would prefer, my opinion would be to keep it called what it is. And you had a lot of comments, and I really want you to engage us today, because you started the whole thing, and not for bad, for good, but that started all the questioning that we sort of came up with. So I think you gotta have to speak up about,
Are you talking to me?
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to make a suggestion about the objective. What about just having this first paragraph? Understand local housing needs and build support for affordable housing initiatives through community collaboration and engagement, period.
I like that. It's part of the guiding, it comes from the guiding principles. It's not, it's connected with that. And I think it talks about why we're doing what we're doing. And I like the fact that it's got the words in it. So I personally would agree with changing that.
And
Because
I too would, I should have looked closer at the guiding principles making these initial comments, because that was my thought today too, when I looked again, that, you know, in our mission and that guiding principle document is that statement, but there's also create and preserve housing in Orleans for individuals and families who meet defined income requirements. So I think, you know, we have a document that gives us these objectives already. So I don't know if we need to reinvent new objectives. So I think I agree with Fran, that, you know, using some of this existing language makes sense.
yeah,
This is the objective of the public outreach. This is
Right.
not necessarily the objective of the trust.
Right.
Um,
which is what we're supposed to be doing, is the public outreach piece.
Right,
Right.
right.
So can we vote on, I mean, not, it's not, can we casually vote on if we think we should change that or not?
So
So
let me
what we're changing-
understand, that would then take out what is there in the, you know, the 10-year goal and the opportunities A and B, and just substitute the general language?
No, I think we would take out the first line, right? Advocate for affordable
Oh,
housing
oh,
efforts
oh,
in the
just
process.
substitute
And put
for
that there
advocate.
instead. Is that what you're talking about?
No, actually, I was talking about having that one sentence be the objective, period. When we start talking about 10-year goals, we're not talking about May town meeting.
Right.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, I
to
don't
some
know.
extent you are, you're achieving part of the 10-year goal.
But I don't
But anyway, go
necessarily
ahead.
know if we want to push that as far as, that's our major goal here is, I mean, our major goal is to get some projects started, correct? This is the hardest one of all of them. So this is actually worth the time, because the rest of them, I think, some of the comments are pretty basic, but
You know, again, I mean, I'm reading through the objectives as written, and those are the objectives of the Affordable Housing Committee and the Affordable Housing Trust. Are they, as written, the objectives for a community engagement plan, or is the wording of the community engagement plan objective is to understand, to understand the local housing, or the public and everyone understands local housing needs? You know what I'm saying now? I'm looking at it from the perspective of, is the title is objective. So is the objective of the community engagement plan? Is that what this should deal with, and deal with only?
Well, that's the importance of the word, of what your title is. This is a community engagement plan in the short term. So for 2021 and 2022, you can make it 2021 if you want. So let me ask, would it make a difference if we call this work plan for community engagement in 2021? And then the question is, what is the objective of a work plan for community engagement in 2021? And it is to understand, but it's more specific than just understanding and communicating.
I mean, if I could,
Shelley,
yeah, I mean, I think we're getting a little confused about, I mean, we have a charge, right? That's a separate document. This is more about community engagement. So I think addressing how we're gonna do the community engagement is a better objective than more broadly speaking about what our role is as a committee. I think that is our charge document, and this is how we're gonna engage with the community. And we'll tailor it to each project as we sort of go through it. So I would agree, my point is I would agree with Bill, that I think we need to realize that this is more about community engagement, not as our broad, objectives. So I like Fran's suggestion.
Shelley?
Yeah, I agree with Katie and the others that the objective here should state what our objective is for having this community education. So if we're trying to build support for projects at town meeting, it should say that. If we're trying to educate people on specific projects without, supporting it at town meeting, but just to educate them, then it should say that. But I think we have to be more specific about what this education or engagement plan specifically is supposed to do.
Andrea?
Nancy, I can tell you from just the select board how much misinformation is out there. I share the concern that only one of these housing projects might pass because of so much misinformation about from all different avenues, how housing is funded, who lives there, what is the impact on the town, and how housing fits into and among other uses and goals of the town. So I absolutely, if you can focus on general information and advocacy, that kind of myth busting that complements potentially what the trust might do specifically about projects, particular projects, I think you will serve your mission, and you can time it so that it's really general education that lives beyond town meeting.
Nancy, I don't think we have to, I think we can do both things. That, some of us can be spending our time, if we look at the responsibilities, roles and responsibilities on the last page, some of us can be spending our time working on the general education and how that should be presented, while others are spending time building a network of people who are going to be supporters when it comes to a vote. So maybe we need maybe we need two objectives under our engagement plan. One is more general and one is more specific.
Okay. So maybe, what if we had, if you put the first one that's on the notes as the first one, and the second one would be to advocate for affordable housing efforts in process as the second piece.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be general information plus that. And then actually the next piece is the opportunities now available actually would go after that, because that would be the things that are in process. And then I think that those things would actually be switched in terms of the 10-year goal of affordable housing and why that would be. Maybe we need to move that, maybe we just switch them in order. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have the general objective, then the second objective, which is on the plan. Put the next thing to be opportunities available. And then I don't know about the 10-year goal in this particular objective. I think it's almost in another place, but that's my opinion. That's
What I'm hearing is, which will work, is number one is the understand sentence.
yes.
And number two objective is the advocacy for projects in place. And under
Yes.
that, you can say including Cape Cod 5, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
So you've got
I like
two
that.
objectives,
Like
like
that.
Shelley was saying.
I
think
like that. Good.
that covers it. I think that's all you need to say. Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
But any
Okay.
reference to the 10-year plan. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take out the 10-year plan stuff.
Well,
And
we'll put that into our later book here that we're going to do.
Right.
That would be one that
Yeah.
could be moved.
Do you want to list all of these projects or just the three?
Just the three, because the others are done, right? I
Well,
mean,
they
the
continue, right?
process,
I don't know. That's fine. Okay, it's just the three. That's fine.
because
okay.
this is a short-term project right now. That's what we're focused on, those three. Like George said, we
Right.
need to keep our eye on the prize here.
Done.
Okay.
We're done with that section.
No, what a
Move
great
on.
committee. Excellent. Pat yourselves on the back. only going to get easier from here. Okay. Target audience is the second one. The issue came out with the word, I'm really, personally, I don't like the word landowner. It sounds like 1786 to me. So I don't like that word. And taxpayers, somebody had issue with part-time residents, full-time residents, summer residents, people pay taxes who don't live here. So I think we need to come up with one other, we need to fix those. So
Well, let me ask then, given that you have two objectives, for objective number 2, in which you're advocating for the 3 projects, who are your targeted audiences?
Mhm.
Maybe I should just ask that. And then we'll go to the objective 1, which is the broader one. Who are your targeted audiences? You may have 2 sets of targeted audiences.
okay. Fran,
For town meeting, the target audience is voters.
right?
Who are taxpayers, are they not?
Well, they have to be taxpayers.
Yeah,
to vote.
okay. Okay.
No.
And
wait a
if I could
minute.
jump on top
No.
on that too,
minute.
I think
But,
stakeholders for each of these 3 projects are a different group of people
right,
who will have interest in the project, and you want to make sure that I like the word stakeholders. It makes me think through who has an interest in this, who is going to jump into the public fray and undermine a project if we don't reach out to them and work it.
right. I agree with that, George. 'Cause
Stakeholders and decision makers.
they could be the stakeholders could be all of these and above. They could be landowners, taxpayers, neighbors, they could, you're absolutely right. I think stakeholders should definitely be in there. And, when I was looking over that today in the comments, I think we got to be careful how big a list we make this. I mean, we start, changing things and part-time, full-time residents, there's even a mention of potential renters. I'm not even sure who those people would be. So I agree. I think whatever is in there, I think stakeholders definitely needs to be a priority. And that, I think people understand what.
Okay, to be clear then, stakeholders is a good word, but it is a general word.
Yeah.
So we have to identify who the stakeholders are for each project.
Well, not necessarily in the.
Because if you
plan.
want to target something, then you have to know how to target it.
But you would have a specific plan for each specific project, so you would have
Okay, but
different.
this is what the plan is. So we do have to identify different stakeholders for different projects.
It doesn't have to be written in the plan though, does it?
Do you want to change target, why don't you just change target audiences to stakeholders and then as your topic?
But
Instead of
George said stakeholders and decision makers. So those are 2 categories that I think should be included. And do we need to say more than that? Because stakeholders and decision makers will be different.
Right. That was kind of where I was going, Fran, is I don't know if we need to, for each project, we're gonna have different set of stakeholders, but I like that, stakeholders, and what was the other phrase you used?
Well, George did.
Decision makers. Did you want to put that as underneath target audiences or as the topic?
I was suggesting it is target audiences, those 2 categories.
And there's a third one, if I could just jump in, is you had town committees here. Do you think there's a necessity to reach out to town committees in advance, like a FinCom or, Shellfish and Waterways or whatever? That seems like it might be a lesser, but a really important place to make sure your information is flowing so nobody's in the dark and they come to their own conclusions because they don't have information.
Yeah. Nice.
When you say the word stakeholders, what do you see in the category? You just say words that you think stakeholders are. Is that neighbors? Is that developers? Is that who are the stakeholders? I'm just asking.
I can throw out a few because I know the letters I get from people who are upset about the projects. So it's your abutters, it's your investment property owners, it's the people who don't think we have a problem, it's people who are afraid of the additional taxes, that if we invest in housing, they're going to have a higher tax bill. I think you can look at the reasons why if you went through each project and identified who would object to it, you're going to have a lot of overlap in their objections, and I would encourage you to keep looking, project by project by project, who is going to be upset about this. I have to tell you that even in my own family, my mother-in-law thought that the Cape Cod 5 project was happening in the Cape Cod 5 building adjacent to 18 West. So even the location of the project is in doubt. I mean, there is a ton of work to be done for each of these projects. And I would go to FinCom and Planning Board and any place where decision makers are weighing in on the warrant, because all of those myths about how housing is done and what impacts it have, they are alive and well in people's living rooms right now.
So do you think target audiences, those enough, just say stakeholders, decision makers, town committees? But that's sort of, by labeling town committees, it looks like you're leaving off other things. So that's all.
Maybe at this
Do you-
point, since
I believe.
this needs more work, why don't we leave it that we still have to identify who the stakeholders and decision makers are for each project. I do think what Fran started off with, if town meeting is one of your objectives, the voters who show up at town meeting is a targeted audience. The question is, who are they and how you reach them? But that's the same thing with stakeholders and decision makers. Who are they for each project and how do you reach them for each project?
But I think the voters should be part of one of the jobs, because that is actually who makes the final decision. Is it not true?
Well, they're the decision makers. They
Okay.
are the voters.
Okay. All right, let's leave it at that, because I think that is broader but it's useful in terms of individual things.
Could we say something like identify target audience for each project?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
what you need to do.
good.
And then we can list the potential target audiences that we would choose from, if you will.
Yes,
for each
excellent. I think that's great. That's good. You got that, Marcia?
Yeah.
I'm trying to make notes, but I'm trying to think how to get this conversation and keep it going. So if you're taking notes, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Anything else on that one? That was a good decision. Okay. We've been talking about this for a while, if you've been on this committee for a while, but the fact is we've been thinking about it for so long that now that we're actually doing it, it seems clearer, does it not? And what we want to do? Yes, we got a direction. That's exciting. Try and just build you up. Okay, content. Content. I don't have a comment. There's a lot of comments on here. Somebody want to, someone said section C is an excellent summary, but I don't know. We've got the same words in here, year-round versus permanent.
Right.
Nancy, given the direction we're going, maybe this has to follow from your target audience. In other words, the content needs to be suitable for your target audience.
Yes.
So depending on who your stakeholder is, then you do the content. But I mean, I don't know that we can sit here and know exactly what content we want for each until we think about it a little bit
No,
more.
I don't think we have to. I think we want to get an outline going here. We want to outline. I think we want to trim this down so it's got the important pieces, but not so much that it's undoable at this point in time. Would you agree with that? And anything we take out can be put someplace else. So it's not like we're throwing it away. We're just not using it. So I think we already streamlined the first two points, Marcia. So I think we want to sort of streamline all of them and then bring it back as you need it for each part.
So one thing we just want to make sure we don't do is bore the heck out of people when we're talking about housing. And you all are dedicated, you know what the jargon is, when somebody says AMI, you don't just zone out, but most residents could care less.
Right.
And I'm not having any qualms with the content here. I think it's fine. We just sort of adjust it to the audience. I mean, it's the second rule of planning school. Adjust to the audience, know your audience before you put together what you want to say. So, yeah,
So leave
Yeah.
it, so leave it all
My
in
comment.
and take what you need when you need it. How about that?
yeah, right.
I think what would be helpful, as Andrea said, is that to the extent there's misinformation, knowing what that misinformation is and what the true information is that should be put out there would be helpful. So I don't know how you want to collect that, but
Yeah, right.
Here's one piece of a definition thing. It's down um, under B3I, and it says temper effects of rising housing costs to low and moderate income households, provide good places to live within reach for our present and future. The word workforce is a definite definition for workforce, and it comes under Governor Baker's specific legislation for people who earn over up to 120 or 25%. So I think we could just say residents and take out the word workforce.
I would agree with that. 'Cause part of,
What-
and I think,
Where are you? I'm sorry.
to be clear, there is a definition for workforce housing, but the definition for workforce is people who work. And so this was targeted to people who work in Orleans but can't afford to live in Orleans. So whether they actually would qualify for workforce housing is a separate matter. But
Yeah.
it was because you do hear a lot of people saying, oh yeah, we should provide family housing so that people who work in Orleans can raise their children in Orleans. So there's a lot of popularity around the term workforce in relationship to who should be allowed to live in Orleans.
yeah, and okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andrea.
Well, this came up even at the select board discussion because there's this or confusion about if you build more housing, other people who live in other towns might move to Orleans, and is that a threat somehow? A select
Not if they work here.
member, well, but that misunderstanding of, wait a minute, aren't we trying to recruit more young families and have them be stakeholders in the future of the town? So even that, the use of that term, if you're going to use terms, say what you mean clearly in your work. So
Right.
because George is right, the rest of us will zone out. But
Right.
that in and of itself, what you think wouldn't be controversial is very much can become an us them identification. So, and everywhere through your arguments or your kind of shedding light on things, I think breaking apart that us them mentality will help.
And I agree too that, we talk about, we'll get into it later when we're talking definitions, but this is to me, a classic case, because I agree too with George's comments. People will zone out and on the AMI and the 30%, 80%, all that business. But on number 4, you have community housing for middle income individuals need to define middle income versus workforce. And we're having that conversation right now ourselves.
Right.
What is middle income? What is workforce? And workforce is different from workforce housing. I think we're going to have to spend some time at some point. Who are we talking about when we talk about these certain qualifications? Because if we're not clear on it, then certainly the public's not going to be clear. And I think people have their own concepts going forward, in which we've already heard of who is the workforce housing, who is the workforce, who does that constitute, who's middle income, is that the firing, the chief, or the police and the fire, is that a teacher? So I think we need to really spend some time at some point defining what we mean.
Well, that's part 2.
I know,
And
I'm sorry.
Part two is going to come right behind us.
It's referenced in this section, Nancy.
Right, I know, but I think we should take it out. This affordable housing objectives.
Can I just offer something, and
Sure.
maybe then we can put this aside. Part of this was when we had this discussion and Fran brought up that excellent article is You Don't Have to Live Here. and I actually did some research and found what resulted from that research. And what that was all about, and what a lot of this wording is all about, is the Framework Institute's doing research discovered that some things conveyed better arguments for affordable housing than other things. So they have certain principles they engender in their playbook, or whatever they call it, so that they actually talk about, emphasize the positivity of contributing to the whole community and the economic prosperity of the region, and these broad concepts, so that you're not talking about affordable housing for that little poor family there who's characterized in this way, because that wasn't compelling in their research. So maybe we don't have to get into it. The point is, the messaging is as important as your purpose in the messaging. So I think to some extent, we need to keep that in mind. And once we start developing materials, documents, or whatever, either with a consultant's help or with these things in mind, just be careful in how we appeal to people why they should be for affordable housing. So I don't know that we have to edit all the wording here. A lot of it was what I picked up out of the Frameworks Institute and what messaging was effective and not effective.
Okay. Can we just take, in that B though, do you want it to the B right under, it's the little baby twos there. It says help permanent residents. The word permanent is not, I don't think that's what we're talking. We're talking year-round residents.
Year round.
I don't think the word permanent is a word that we should be using. It should be year-round. So I would just like that to be changed.
Okay.
And if we go back to the workforce word, we might say individuals and families.
How about
Future-
labor force?
Future individuals and families, because we want to have housing not only for people who are working. We need
People,
housing
families, yeah,
for
Okay.
yeah. but I think-
Actually, what I'm saying is, maybe we don't have to edit each word until we're really producing something for which we have to choose words.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand that, and I think you're right. We don't want to overdo it, but I think the fact that we looked at all this and whatever triggered whatever we thought about, it's important to keep it in mind, because
Sure.
it's easy to forget what triggered us the last time. And if it triggered us, it's going to trigger somebody else in terms of the way it's the words it chosen. So I think words are important, and I think it's important to spend a little bit of time so we all agree on our direction. So anything else
Nancy?
on that section? Yes, Ward?
I wonder, what I think would be helpful at some point, whether it goes here or not, is we said we want to identify the target audiences for each of these. I would love to have a working list of what the concerns were of our different audiences.
right.
And secondly, what were some of those positive common values that we can build on and point to and show how these projects work toward the good things that we want for our community. I do think we need to know what the concerns are as well, or more accurately, more articulately even sometimes, than the people who express them. So I would suggest we at some point come up with a list of the key concerns.
I think, Andrew, you've already got them if you've been keeping notes. So I think you probably could send those along in general terms. And I think that point is really well taken, because we believe in it and we think about it all the time, we tend to think what's positive, because that's what we care about. And we hear the negative, but we don't necessarily define it and try to counter it in some ways. And I think that's really important. So I think we have this. We have some stuff from the 107 Maine. We have some things from Andrea Ask a Select Board member thing. So I think lots of stuff is coming by her. So any of that would be helpful as we're working on this. George?
Ward, are you thinking of something akin to the list of concerns we got from the neighbors on 107, and sort of how our options for responses are, so we keep a running tally of those kinds of things and build almost a database of responses?
I think that would be one way to express it. I think that Andrea did mention a series of things that people worry about.
Right.
And people vote based on the emotions that they hold and what they think, where they think the town is going.
Right.
It gets really sloshy, the basis is it's not a analytic argument always. We have to know what people are worried about and show how these projects are going to help address the things they worry about and aren't going to, dramatize the things that they're worried about.
And we have to also remember that we're in competition with quite a few other projects that people are also care a lot about. And so why is affordable housing the thing they should care about more than something else? Because there's only so much to go around. And I think that that's how we develop our position. Andrea?
I would just say, I would take it one step further and say, yes, the kind of opposition research is very important, and that could be a Q&A, but I think you have to sell, addressing what Ward is saying, fear will not pass at town meeting. So if you can connect what the stability and the promise of people living here brings to the future of the town. It's like Kennedy. Nobody challenged him when he said, we got to get to the moon in 10 years. They bought the idealism of it, and then they figured out how to get it done. And I think that your job I think your mission is to advocate for how the action that you're advocating for brings the future that every single person can agree on. And
I like that.
I think that's the first thing. And then that opposition research, that kind of, Q&A, then you can really bust those myths about that. Because I'll tell you, Nancy, if I took that list of all the questions that I've heard, and George has heard them, and Fran has heard them, anybody in the Housing Institute, they are not unique to Orleans. They are to every single housing development. I'm sure Marcia's got decades of those fears under her belt. But how we address them, particularly to the future of this town, is I think the story you need to lead into town meeting.
I will emphasize that, and also from all my years, is you're talking about people's fears. They may or may not really express them in a logical, honest manner. It'll come out as traffic and noise and whatever, but it's people's fears. And the question is, and what the literature is showing is, you can't talk them out of their fear per se. What you have to do is portray how what you're talking about builds a better community with the positive stuff. So you can say it doesn't generate X traffic, it generates Y, but that's not going to make a neighbor say, well, in that case, I'm all for the project. It doesn't quite work that way.
I hear you. That's a good point.
I really like that positive approach, because really the bottom line of having affordable housing is actually to sustain our community so it doesn't die.
Yeah,
And that's really the
Right.
message.
I hear you.
It was interesting, that research, because I did delve into it, is, often housing advocates talk about the poor families who can't afford to do X, and they can't afford to buy housing or rent housing. And a lot of the reaction was, well, I had to do it. They can do it too. You don't have to live here, kind of thing. So you got to be careful not to say the reason to do affordable housing is because of these poor people who couldn't manage to do that which I was able to do, kind of thing. I'm sort of putting a hyperbole on it, but their research showed that wasn't the most effective way to advocate for affordable housing.
Right.
Right. No, I don't
And
want
I
to do
think-
that. That's definitely what we don't want to do. I think we want to build the brighter future, and how the town will grow because of that and improve because of that.
And I think
Okay.
that that's important. I really appreciate everybody's comments and agree with a lot of what's being said. I think in general terms, the citizens and voters do support affordable housing in Orleans. They've, approved of development of us. They approved the trust, the CPC money, $500,000 gets approved. So in general, when you talk to people, I think about, is affordable housing a good thing that Orleans should look at? The answer is generally, I think, yes. But it's when you get down to the specifics and the fears that Marcia is referring to, and Andrea, that the specific topics, and that the comments like we heard from the 107, when it gets close to home, those are the fears that at some point you need to deal with. And that's why I think I agree, if you keep it as a positive, as to, okay, you agree that affordable housing is a good thing. This is why specifically Cape Cod 5 is going to be good for the community. I think that, that's a way to go forward.
And I think I agree with what Bill just said. And we've had a lot of publicity and media coverage and everything, but I think people are ready for some specifics now, like what's it gonna look like? What's it gonna cost? Who's gonna live there? I think that's, some of that is from the trust and some of it's from us in terms of trying to build. If you want to build a bright picture, you might need to show a few photographs or a few ideas. So, because people hear this word and they make their own image of what they think it's going to be. And we have in our head what we think it's going to be. And then we wonder why people aren't coming together. And I think the point is that present something to have people look at, and maybe they'll like it because they'll see what it is. It's the worry about what is it going to be, I think, is part of the problem. So I think this could address some of that. All right, I think content is done. Are you okay? Anything else on content, Rich?
I just wanted to say that I think some of the biggest advocates could be people who need that housing to be able to, and we could support them as a committee to be able to almost put a face on it, so that the neighbors and whoever else is going to be there is going to understand who's going to live there. I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns from a neighbor standpoint of, not necessarily lights and noise and all these things, but who in fact is going to be there when, if they can have their mind on someone who they know, changes the picture quite a bit.
I think that's another really important point. I know that CDP has tried to build some advocates in that.
So maybe what I'm saying is how do we engage the people who need the housing the most to be able to almost like do a selection process before the housing is even built, putting the cart before the horse.
Okay. Anybody else? I think that's it. Everything we're talking about are good ideas, isn't it? I think we're trying to make.
One thing I had in my notes as, like, for example, if you go to a banking website and you're looking for a mortgage or something, you would go to some sort of calculator where you enter your details. Wouldn't that be great if the town could have some sort of a similar calculator to show?
You mean like the AMI, that kind of thing? Like how, are you thinking like what you would need to live in this town? Or what, are you talking about the project? Did you hear that?
He might be frozen.
Okay, we'll go back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
I think you froze a little
No,
bit.
I mean, in general, it may be applied to a specific project or a specific type of housing, but you would be able to put in details. Am I frozen?
Having a little hard time hearing you. I guess I want to know what the audience is. Is the audience people looking for housing or people or specific projects? I'm not quite sure.
Can you at least hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll come back to you in a little while. Okay. Okay, do you want to, are we okay with?
Audience would be people looking for housing.
Okay, people
Did you
looking
hear
for
that?
housing. Yes, people looking
Oh.
for housing. Okay, thank you. Sorry, your screen is not helping you right now. Okay, we done with content then? I think that helped. Yes. We're starting to sort of, the content is sort of setting the scene for the discussions, depending on who the audience is. Methods, materials, resources was the fourth one, which everybody seemed to like that one. I think the things that came out of that was maybe short-term and long-term goals for those things. And maybe that's where the consultant discussion comes up. So do we have some opinions about that?
Well, maybe to focus the discussion, let's pick a milestone for spring town meeting. What are the materials, resources that you think should be produced to help that discussion?
I don't know.
Question,
whether
everybody look
it's-
at it.
I don't know whether it was under this section or where the suggestion about the hiring of a consultant, but I think personally that should be one of our first priorities is to hire a consultant because I think it would help us in developing and this, especially just an example of Marcia asking the question she just asked. I think working with a consultant that has the expertise that could help us go through this and planning how are you going to do this on specific events like a the town meeting coming up and who we're going to work with. I think we need that specific set of skills to help us right from the beginning. I would think that'd be a first priority.
Nancy,
Yes.
so you have $5,000 on hand now, spendable tomorrow, and you've asked for $10,000 more. In the consultant world, that is not enough to open the envelope.
No.
But in this year, in the FY22 application, I know it probably doesn't help till July 1st, but we had put in 3/4 of the $10,000 was for a facilitator. If you can find somebody who can come in and facilitate the issues effectively, that's really a valuable person to have. I would encourage you to just watch how Judy Barrett handles herself at the upcoming January 12th meeting on our housing project on Governor Prent's study, and just to get someone like that to do all the research, what 6 or 8 hours of prep, come into a meeting and then follow up effectively. It's hard to do that for under several $1,000s because of the learning curve for these things. So just food for thought, but how do we effectively use that money? You can do 1 million pamphlets, but sometimes one good outreach that's dynamic makes all the difference.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Of George, I guess maybe would know this. What about groups like HAC and CDP who have experts who are doing this for other towns? Are they that expensive too? I mean, I'm assuming they don't do it for totally free, but how does their cost compare to a consultant as such?
We haven't tapped into that, but it's a really good resource because you've got people who are already on someone else's payroll and an executive director who would be glad to get $1,000 or $2,000 to loan out their staff. And they can put a feather in their cap for doing something for the community. So that's a really, really good idea. And maybe we
Well,
can
and I think-
follow up with that.
Having done some just searching around on other towns' websites and so forth about community, well, the educational piece of what they've got on their websites for the projects and things that they've had, there's a lot of stuff there that would be easily adaptable for our town. You would put our statistics in and our projects in and so forth, and you're good to go. So I think there are ways for us to really benefit from having some of those folks helping us, either being in charge of it or, feeding us, somebody else feeding us those bits and pieces that we can then use to create, whether it's a handout or a PowerPoint, doesn't matter, but they've got both, I know, because I've seen a lot of them.
So do we encourage George and Marcia to reach out? Is that would be our goal, or how would that be done?
If I could make a suggestion, Andrea Aldana at CDP knows better than anybody about housing on the outer and lower Cape, and she's fabulous at running a meeting. So that would be my suggestion.
And who's the meeting for, George? You were talking about having a meeting with a facilitator?
No, I was just talking about your use of resources in general, that you got to be mindful that you can burn up resources real quick, but it might be the most effective use of your money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrea?
Well, I would say that what you've got, but you haven't focused it down yet, is a campaign. You've got an election date, which is town meeting, and you've got ideas that you've got to sell. And so if you can pare down your message, Fran will be rolling her eyes at me because, my God, my campaign team worked endlessly with me to keep refining message, keep drilling it down. Then in terms of your materials, whether you envision a rack card or a website, or you're ready to go with that message, as George said, into meetings, into every speaking opportunity that you can go. And your message is coordinated and unified with the Housing Trust, because that's the other piece of this. Everybody's got to be on the same page in terms of how we talk about this. And as many town officials as possible, you've prepped us to represent that advocacy. I think if you zero down to the what do you need to produce, as Marcia is kind of trying to get us there, and what are the essential messages? If it could fit on a rack card, you're ready to go.
I agree with that. I think this discussion is really helpful because everybody's sort of trying to narrow down to get to the point, and I think that's what we have to do. And I like the campaign analogy, because it's true. We do have a short term that we can work at, and we have the future to do other things that we'd like to do in the future, but our period is a short one. All right. How much does a website help a person update a website if most of the content was produced by somebody else? How much does that cost, George? Do you have any idea?
We might get it done in-house.
Really?
But yeah,
Okay.
I mean, a good developer is going to cost you at least $50 an hour. So maybe it's a couple $1,000s.
Okay. All right. So your question sort of went a lot of different places here, Marcia. So
But
I
if
think
you're doing a campaign, then what's the campaign consist of? Then you can talk about consultants or in-house or coordination with nonprofits. So what does the campaign look like? What would you like this campaign to look like unfolding at spring town meeting?
Can I make a suggestion? You have an elevator speech about housing and why we should support it as a town. then you've got somebody, anybody who's going out and talking to OIA or doing any public speaking opportunities at any level is drilled on the popular question and answers. You've prepped people that represent you in everybody's Zoom calls and living rooms, and you schedule yourself in as many places as you possibly can. You have a landing web page that reiterates the message if you need it, and you can do an electronic newsletter or whatever messaging. You know, all of these are basically free. You just have to template them out. But you've got to create the, you know, whether Andrea and CDP helps you create and refine the message, but you've got a consummate team of professionals here that if you can agree on your message, they can produce, you know. So sorry, dog barking.
Good dog. Okay. That to me is something you can bite right now. That expression. I mean, that we could do that. Getting the message is going to be tricky, but we can do that. Or Marcia can do that, and George can do that, and we can agree to it. I mean, in terms of what we think the key pieces are. But I think that is a good strategy, and it makes sense because it has a time factor to it. So working back from the town meeting, the first thing you want to do is, according to Andrea, is get your message straight, what you want to convey, and then find out who you can convey it to. Is that what you're saying? Pretty much. And what different, can we do various electronic things that we can send to people?
And Nancy, can I suggest there are many of us, I mean, many of you know that I've got a database of almost 700 people that I send as a select person. Many people that you know have big databases. If you've got a message ready, you don't even have to originate your own email. Well, you should originate your message, but you can send it out the way George just got the links for the surveys sent out. We can get the message out if you know what you want to say.
Right. No,
I have
I
great
hear you.
confidence that that's not a problem.
So I'll push it back to our consultant, our coordinator. How do we determine what's the message? What would be the steps that you want us to do? How do we get the message? How do we determine it? We have a huge message of our own. How do we get that going? And do you agree with that philosophy that Andrea has explained? Fran.
Nancy, you're good at giving homework assignments. What if you gave the homework assignment to each of us to write a very short elevator speech message of what we think we are doing and why, and send it in to you, and then maybe Marcia and George can pull something out of what we put forth.
Now, is
Sure,
this a
that's a good
message
idea.
related to the specific projects at town meeting?
Well, the message, yes.
Okay,
Why, what are we doing coming up to town meeting and why?
Why are we supporting these three projects?
Right.
We support affordable housing for its value, but why these three projects? And put it together. That's a good idea. Okay, that's your assignment. It'll be due when? Soon, very soon.
Oh, do
Probably
we-
sooner than.
Do
What?
we expect all three projects to be on town meeting?
Ooh.
You know, there is no project for Governor Prince right now. There's a study.
Right.
And
So-
107 Main is in the hands of the trust primarily. I would kind of narrow that homework assignment to
Yeah,
the Penrose project on West Road. And that's it.
why I asked, because if we're talking about there's a difference between, again, the larger picture of a community outreach plan, what do we want to do, versus concentrating on what's the message for town meeting. Then we need to focus on what is going to be brought forward at town meeting. And if it's
George,
only-
isn't the
Let me just-
acquisition of land at Prince on town meeting?
It, nothing is on the town meeting warrant yet. So the study ends January 29th, as you know, and the selectmen will take until, the middle of March or early March to decide whether they want to have a warrant article for purchase.
So it could be on town meeting.
It could
Can I
be,
just
yeah.
bring out one other point, though, is that I think one of the issues that I've been hearing is, why do we need 3 projects? Why, us, we who have been on this committee for forever, know that we had nothing for such a long time. And then all of a sudden, we have 3 things that are good possibilities. But the response from many people that I speak to, or speak to me, is, we don't need all 3. Why do we need all 3? And I think that question is really important. It goes back to your, the 10-year goal that we mentioned before. But I think it's true. I think it's a really, so even if we don't want to push all 3 projects exist in some form of real, maybe, and imaginary. But in people's minds, they look like 3 things. So I think that has to be part of the discussion. We can narrow it down to specific places, but that is a pervasive feeling in the town that, geez, what are you doing? You got so many things going on right now. So I'd like to address that one too. So
But isn't the basic answer you have a 10-year plan, or does that not
Yeah,
mean anything?
that's a good plan. That's a good answer.
Yeah, and I think you have to tell the story of what the community needs. Just using statistics and telling the story of the cost of real estate and the unreachableness, that doesn't really get
Right.
anybody revved up. You have to tell the story of where this community has been, where it's going, and how this is a crucial point at which to make strategic decisions that may feel like a lot right now, but they're going to be right on when we get them done. And each of them has a specific track that it can go down to be done. I mean, Penrose, in some ways, it is in the can. We know what the permitting and funding track is for that. 107 Main Street is probably funded by the trust with a private developer coming in to take ownership of the property under a disposition agreement. That's a nice separate track for a smaller project. And the Governor Prince is a wide open study right now that probably includes a good bit of some kind of housing, right?
But so that, what you just said is really important, because I don't think anybody's really.
That was my
put that
stump
all-
speech.
I liked it. Write it down, send it in, because it was good. But I think that was the whole point. We've got to, we've got to see, we've got to put the whole thing together. Sorry.
Nancy, they're myths, and George just touched on it about that if you vote for one project, you can't possibly vote for 3 because your taxes will go up sky high. And if you vote for this, that means we don't get that, whatever that is labeled. And so the myths about how housing is funded and the role of the town, well, is the town going to be a real estate, a rental agent now? There's so many myths that if you can present the vision and how they're accomplished, addressing those myths without having to like, for instance, George just said, a developer is coming in, the town has controls and safety nets about how that thing is developed, but it answers this long-term thing. Then the fear goes away but you've addressed it in the story of the project. So it doesn't even air.
I agree. I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the story out so it isn't just one article here and one comment here, that there's a patchwork here that we can develop. All right, we're doing pretty well. I know it's taken a while, but this is really important. We haven't done this like this yet, and I think it's really important that we do it. I think we're making good progress. The schedule, we've talked about the schedule a little bit. We can go back to that, Marcia, in a minute. In the roles and responsibilities. I really question whether you can put the roles into the schedule, because I think that I'd like to be part of the roles and responsibilities as part of the schedule, because I think it makes it more like our job is to make the schedule happen as opposed to just outlining our roles. So I'd like to somehow put those first 2 into the schedule. That's part, making the work plan was a 2-year plan or a short-term plan, expand on that one. And, sorry. Because I think the other ones sort of refer to who we're talking to, you know, we don't need to get into everybody's business in terms of what they're all doing. We need to know what we are selling and who we have to sell it to. I think that's our role and responsibility, because I feel like some of those things in that last section we're too much involved in other people's decisions, where I think we want to maybe move our comments along. Do you understand what I'm saying? Marcia?
You mean combine the two sections? Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't think that's.
I don't think we need to establish our roles. I think we've done that. And I
Well,
don't
it's
think
just that you have to determine who does what, that's all.
well, I would hope that after we come up with this plan, that we maybe have a joint meeting with the trust board, and show them what we think we're going to do, so that we're not working at cross purposes here. And I think we should probably do that, don't you think? I mean, we can make this great plan of everything we're talking about.
Yeah, no, yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think, Ward? And I'm really glad you're with us, because I think you can bring two perspectives, ours and theirs together. But I don't see that we can put the whole thing into effect without making sure that we're not either stepping on toes or telling something that's not accurate. So I don't know.
I think we have to sing our song and
Okay. Seeing your
do-
own special
do
song.
it, conscious of what others might think and feel, but do it from our heart. I think we have to look at the story that of hope, the positive vision that these projects offer. I think that that's conveyed more through storytelling and images than through facts and figures. And I think there was something,
I think that we all agree with that.
the idea of having some prep work of people writing down the things that motivate these projects and awareness of the things that are possible concerns and fears. And, I think a session with a facilitator to take that stuff and nail down our messages would be a good step.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. And we've done this with Andrea from CDP several times with larger groups with bigger concepts. If we had her for a little while to do that with us, she would really help us to narrow down where we're going. I think that should be I think our next step should be everybody write their message. Thanks, Fran. And then we should take our messages and see if we can find a way to see where we're going from that. And I think if we could get Andrea or somebody like her. There was another woman who also facilitated the library. Do you remember her?
Yes,
Fran?
Sky.
Sky, I should remember that name. She was also really good at bringing out what people were really thinking. I thought she did an excellent job. So those two people, I'm really going back to this facilitator idea, George. I think it's a good one. And I think that would, if we could do that within a very short period of time so that we wouldn't be waiting too long, I think that would be a good step. And then we could give Marcia would get better direction than I think we're even giving now. I think you've got your own direction. I think you sort of know, but I think we need to sort of do this process. Anybody disagree with that idea? Anybody agree with that idea?
I'm thinking we need to move quickly,
Yeah,
and
very
waiting for
quickly.
meeting times and getting a consultant to meet with us takes too much time. I think we can put together our own message, and I think that
Sure.
with the trust and with the committee, we can come up with something pretty quickly.
Okay,
We need it now.
all right. So when will this be due? I think it's gonna have to be due by, when would you like it due by, this message?
Well, let me ask then, can I clarify so that I can know what's going to come in? So everybody's going to try a message, elevator speech, whatever, a short thing about why we support the specific projects of Cape Cod 5? Is that, clarify for me what's
I was thinking we need to be a little bit broader, why these 3 projects would be helpful, but.
Okay, all right,
Just
so,
Cape Cod 5, you can do that, but I feel, well, you can't just drop 107 Main Street by the side of the road because people know about it. And I
okay, so
think we had-
basically a message about why we need these, however, affordable
How-
housing projects.
How it fits into our goals, how it fits into our goals from specific goals and our goals for a healthy community and all.
Okay, but, okay, so let me clarify then, how long is this message? Andrea, well, how long is an elevator speech?
Paragraph? 2 paragraphs?
What, 30 seconds?
30
Not
seconds,
beyond 3 minutes.
right, 30 seconds, I would say. So we're looking for 30-second messages about why the hell you should support affordable housing. Is
Exactly.
that right?
We
Okay.
like bumper stickers.
Great, great.
And I would like
Yeah,
you to.
or
see-
as somebody used to tell me, if it doesn't fit on a t-shirt, forget it. But anyway,
like
okay,
you
so
to-
everybody's gonna try to do that, and you use some creativity, you could mention projects or not, whatever. So you're gonna send that all into Nancy, is that it?
And then I will send
Okay.
it on to you.
Okay, and then
But I
maybe,
think, by Friday, because I think we got to do it sooner than like, it sounds like unless you absolutely can't, but that today is what day? Tuesday? Yes, Friday, because it's all in our brain right now. We've just filled our brain with all sorts of ideas. And I would think the sooner you could do it, the better, just because, and there will be no grading on this homework. All ideas will be accepted and appreciated, and maybe they'll be combined as we have often done, which is what we're doing right now. I think this is a very helpful activity. I hope you're not all bored by it, because I think we are really narrowing down what we think. And the only way you can do that is to talk about it.
okay, so that's great. I think you get the messages. Then I also heard about the campaign that you need to push the messages out in various ways. So ideas about going to places and delivering the elevator speech. So it could be FinCom, planning, or whatever, but ideas about groups or audiences and how you reach them. So taking all the messages, where you take them, and I assume there'll be volunteers to take them. And then the other thing I heard was, oh, we did talk about webpage. So I'll talk to George about what we can do within the current structure. But I really think a well-designed webpage is worth its weight in gold over the longer term.
I agree.
So whether or not you'd get a professionally designed one now, I mean, there's professionals and there's professionals, but something that provides a site where you can put stuff. So we'll look at that. And then I heard electronic newsletter, or it could be email blast or whatever. But basically these, how you get the word out electronically. Does anybody want to take on social media, which I really think is worth taking on, but I am not an expert in this at all.
So Marcia, just so you guys know, the town already has, through the cultural district, a Facebook page. It's not well read, but it exists. There's a cultural district website. There's not typically a newsletter unless George, a department I know, doesn't to put.
No,
one
we're
in.
working on a TikTok right now. We think that probably is behind the times already, so.
Are you dancing? Sorry.
But we do have, if you create the message, I think it won't be that hard to push it out. And Public Speak is available through, in any meeting. You can do an agenda item, or you can request to be on Public Speak. And you can go to the monthly meetings of lots of stakeholder organizations in town. Again, if you've got your message ready, and I wouldn't rule out things like the historical, the CHOW, the Historical Society and OIA.
And I assume then these are also messages that can be delivered by whoever at town meeting.
Mhm.
So we need to have speakers at town meetings ready to deliver
the article.
messages in a coordinated manner.
Yes.
Yeah.
So whether it's the committee members or your network of advocates or however, but lining up some number of people who are willing to get up and deliver these or whatever messages in support of whatever is on the warrant, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And or be able to answer questions.
if somebody brings something up, be able to have the
Yeah.
data and the information ready to go,
Yeah.
you know. All right, that's a plan. You like that plan? I
Yeah.
think it's a good start for this week.
We're good.
I think do we finish? I think you can, Marcia, you can adjust the schedule, consultant information, and the roles and responsibilities sort of as you see fit in terms of the things we've decided today. Yes?
Okay, and if you will let me, I would be glad to modify this per the specifics I got, but it would seem to me what would be most useful for the short term is more like a work plan, like
Yep.
tasks. So
Right.
regardless of long sections on whatever, on coordination, etc., basically sort of this last piece and what needs to be done in the very short term for this immediate kind of goal. So I
Yeah.
want to sort of put the effort on that since that is so time sensitive.
I
And then
agree
I'll
with
get
that.
back and work on this
Yeah.
plan.
Well, the good thing about this plan is even if we don't work on fixing it, we've discussed it, we can use it as a tool for our own
Right.
information. It's got some good guidance in it for what we have to do later or what we have to talk about or our messaging. So this plan is still viable and it's got to be, fixed a little bit, but I think we've got this as a backdrop for the rest of the things we're doing. So if you want to make the work plan, I think that's a great idea. So.
Okay.
Ooh. Well, that was, anything else anybody wants to say about this? Because I think we've done a good job on it. We had an agenda here. I'm trying to find it. Okay. The other assignment that I had given you, and I don't really want to talk about it right now, but I think the definitions fit into the general picture, is I'd asked you to give 5 words, 5 terms, not the definition, just the term that you think we really have to narrow down for this period of time. And we can either do it now or you can send those with your elevator message. It's your choice.
Let's just send them to you. You can put them together.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll
The-
send
I
them to,
bet there's going to be some overlap. So that's the assignment, the paragraph and the 5 words. Don't define them. Just give me the words that you think are key to our story for now until May. Not for the whole world, but just until May, okay?
okay.
That's excellent. All right. Future agenda topics, anyone have one? I think we've got them.
Continuation of what we're doing.
I'm sorry, my friend.
Continuation of what we're doing.
Right.
So I think we've just got to keep working on it. And we have the minutes from December 10th. Do I have
So
a
move.
motion to approve?
So
Second,
move.
and any discussion, any corrections, anything? Okay. Please say by roll call approval. Rich,
Aye.
Nancy, yes. Fran,
Aye.
Shelley,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
I think Katie left us. All right, thank you. And just a reminder, I'm sure you already have on your calendar that we have the Governor Prince Studies result meeting on January 12th at 5:30 PM. You'll get an invitation. Also, just to note that January 14th is almost nailed down as our CPC interview. It's January 14th at 4:30 PM. George said he would go with me to support it. I guess anyone else can support too. It's on TV and you'll be able to, if you want to come in and say something in support of it, you are welcome to do that. Yes,
Time was that, Nancy?
it says 4:30.
Okay.
We were supposed to confirm I confirmed that we would do it and it seems like it's, unless there's it seems like it's definite. If there's any changes, I will send that out to you and let you know. But it's important that we support our two asks. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 2nd, 4:30. We'll continue. So Is there any new business or anything further anyone likes to add? Thank you very much for going through this page by page and all the work you've done on this. I think we are getting closer to what we've always wanted to do. And I think I appreciate everybody's efforts on this. I have a motion to adjourn. Shelley? Second?
Second,
We all have to vote again. Rich, could you raise your hand if you
Second.
are, or I have to, Rich? Nancy, yes. Fran?
Aye.
Shelley? Aye. Bill?
Aye.
Okay. All right.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you
Nancy.
all.
Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you.
Aye.
Have a nice evening.